You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, Lucha Central Weekly.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast, the podcast that covers news and events happening in the world of Lucha Libre, talking Mexico-based promotions and top independents, along with luchador-related news from throughout the United States. The Lucha Central Weekly Podcast is part of the Lucha Central Podcast Network on luchacentral.com. This podcast and others from the network are also available on all major podcast streaming platforms like iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and more. And of course, a special shout out to our streaming partners at thechairshot.com. My name is Miranda Morales. I'm one of the co-hosts of the Lucha Central Weekly Podcast, and let me bring in the rest of the team. Introducing first, he is the dashing one, Mr. Dusty Murphy. Dusty, how's it going?
It's going fantastic. How's it going for you, Miranda?
It's going good. I'm so excited to be back with all of you. And by all of you, I mean, well, the third member of the trio, and that's who?
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 The one and only Brendan Barr.
That's who.
Hey. Yeah, it has been a hot minute. We did attempt to do some shows during the absence, just things have happened.
Yeah.
Things. We may need to rename this the Lucha Central Not So Weekly Podcast.
At least for a little while.
Yeah.
We weren't doing it, then we managed to pull a string of few together, and then we lost it again. But I think
it's been a challenge. I know I was out for 2 weeks. I was off on my honeymoon with my husband, so out of commission. And then also I was supposed to be at an event last week, but then got sick with the flu. So before we got on air, Dusty and I were comparing our sick notes. As Dusty was also not feeling well.
You guys keep that mojo away from me. I don't need that.
Yes, so it's that time of year where, of course, the holiday's slowly coming up, but looks like flu season has been kicking in. The classic flu seems to be coming back in on top of all these other illnesses, whether it's, I've heard of strep, I've heard of, stomach flus, everything going around.
Yeah, stop it.
Oh man, yes. So a bit of a hiatus, but it feels good to be back. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to one of our listeners who reached out during the break. Red Card Lucha reached out to me on Instagram, and he's an individual who's listened to our show so much so that he decided to do his own little mini podcast and sent me a video clip of that. So I just want to give a shout out to him. Awesome. Enjoys the show, and he mentioned how it inspired him to want to do his own little podcast. So check out Red Card Lucha on YouTube. That's Red Card Lucha on YouTube. You can also check him out on Instagram. But he had a video he posted up just a few weeks ago, that I thought was, just a really cool way of, sharing his thoughts on Lucha Libre and, his thoughts and opinions. So I wanted to give a shout out to him and to all of our listeners. We greatly missed all of you and continue to appreciate all of you who listen to us whenever we air. We hope to continue to have all of our listeners stay tuned with us, and of course with our new listeners hopefully joining us along the ride. It's something we still, of course, enjoy doing, and connecting with our fans and our listeners. So don't worry, this week's episode, we're going to bring it to you. We had a lot of good news to cover, a lot of great discussion that's going to be had. And yeah, I mean, you can't miss us if we never leave. So.
Yeah.
That's one way to pitch it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the silver lining, of everything. That's my job. But again, you did not just, tune in to hear us rant and banter and all that. You came here for the news. So we are going to kick off today's show with news of the week with Brendan.
So we're going to start off with a little bit of an older story that has a newer twist here. So during our unintentional hiatus, Bandito officially signed with AEW, and as many of you are aware, there's different layers to that. I don't have details to know how AEW he is, but he's still doing indie shows, as we will talk about it later.
Yeah.
But and of course he's still running his own promotion down in Mexico. But he did sign with AEW, and I feel like that the reason the news story came up was because of WWE. So Dusty, you had a little more insight on that story, or Miranda? Yeah.
He had kind of, we had talked about it in a previous show. I think it was the one that you and I did. We talked about, he said they came out and said that he had signed with AEW, and then he was like, I didn't sign yet. I haven't signed. And so it was this big thing. And basically it all came down to dates. His family was reluctant. He has kids and he's married. His family was reluctant to leave Mexico, and he was reluctant to leave them for long periods of time. And basically the WWE offer included NXT. Like, you had to go through NXT, which meant relocating to Florida by himself. He didn't want to do that. And apparently the WWE contract had like a minimum number of dates he would have to work to get paid. Well, the AEW contract had a maximum number of dates they would request him to work instead, and he gets paid regardless. So it was just a much better deal for him, and he just fewer dates. Apparently they will not hit the cap on the shows that he's supposed to wrestle unless they start doing house shows. Which is interesting because that's something that we've kind of talked about. AEW really needs those house shows.
Well, yeah.
And, I mean, it just helps you build up your rhythm, let you try things out, do all kinds of stuff. House shows, I think, would be beneficial to the AEW loop. You could hit smaller towns that way, a lot of stuff going on. And, like I say, not enough dates to appear in that period of time for his contract unless they do house shows, which makes it especially interesting. So
on the subject of house shows for AEW, this is an old, long ago conversation from before lockdown, but I was talking with Aubrey about that, and they were very much on pace to announce house shows before lockdown happened. And so that they're coming back is not a surprise to me. But to your point about the benefits of it, that's a conversation a lot of wrestlers have been having in general, is the more reps you get, the more times you get, the more polish you get. And you cannot underestimate the value of being able to try something a little different in front of a small crowd, even though it might get out there on hand cams. So that you have time to make it look good when you do it on the air or do it in a big show of some kind. So yeah.
Well, is that part of, and excuse me if I'm not clear on his role, but we saw Jeff Jarrett come into AEW both as an on-screen talent, but also in a business role. And I believe he may be having a role in, either the development or launch of live events, which was similar to what he was doing in WWE before he got let go. It sounds like that's, granted, like you had mentioned, something that they've been focusing on and working, but it may be one step closer to fruition with the hiring of Jeff Jarrett.
Well, in the fact that they're talking about it again. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to, thank you for reminding me. I was trying to remember where I'd heard that they were bringing it back up again. But yeah, that is, what they've alluded to with Jeff Jarrett's role, but they haven't expanded on
exactly
what details are going to be on that, or if that's even what we think it means. Cause, I mean, just to be a tiny bit snarky, they do sometimes just hand out titles, which don't necessarily mean what we think they mean over in AEW. So
word.
But yeah, so there it is. We have Bandito with AEW. He is still putting on Big Lucha cards. We will be talking about Big Lucha later. I'm assuming that is one part of his date requirements as well, is that he needs to be free to teach.
Yeah, that was part of it too, was that he was still allowed to teach and have the gym and do the Big Lucha thing with AEW versus an exclusivity with WWE.
Yeah. Which means we might see at some point an AEW versus Big Lucha show, just as as the Roadshow idea develops more.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Right? And the reason, for those of you out there that are wondering, I'm speculating on that is one of the things he's done with Big Lucha is he's invited other promotions to come to the gym, and they've done like a versus, and it will go out on a little bit on the internet. So I don't think that something that big would be totally unseen, but it would probably not be an AEW show. It would just be something as they bring out road shows to let people work, and would give a lot of them the ability to work internationally, which is not a thing every AEW wrestler has guaranteed. So
yeah.
All right. Speaking of international exposure, I'm just gonna jump right into it. GCW, who has dipped their toes into international stuff by going to Mexico and other places. I apologize to Canada that I rarely think of them as international, but it does take a visa to get there. But GCW has done several shows with luchadors as well as in Mexico. They have released they've released a bunch of the videos. I'm doing this backwards because I had misread my notes. I was going to bring this up later, but here we are. They released that. Cubs Fan has listed all of the cards and all of that over on Lucha Blog. So you can, if you want direct links, you can get that. I will swing back around. I'll mention a few that are on there. But the reason the GCW is so big on my radar right now is they've also announced several dates and upcoming shows across the Americas, which will feature some guy that we never talk about on this show by the name of Hijo del Vikingo, who may or may not be the next hot lucha ticket. And if you're thinking he may not, you may need to press a little harder on that rock there you're living under, because he's kind of a big deal. And then I get to announce my personal excitement. Tickets are going to go on sale very shortly as we're recording this for the 8 to 5 show on December 17th, which will feature Nick Wayne versus Hijo del Vikingo. And that actually, I apologize, Cubs fan. We're gonna talk about some of your content for a second here. He went on his blog and he mentioned two very distinctly different philosophies on this. He said, Nick Wayne is a good wrestler, but he thought that putting Vikingo in there with a luchador he's worked with a lot more would be more of a way to get fans to be drawn to it, to see what they can really do and what their style is all about. And he referenced that's how the Lucha Bros got quite a bit of attention, is on their initial American tours. They basically wrestled each other in a lot of cities so that people could really see what, both of their styles were all about. I was thinking the other way. I was thinking like the American, promotions back from the territories days, what you do, the way you get, a guy's big attention is you have him wrestle against the biggest name they've got locally, whether that's your heavyweight champion or the guy that's got the biggest buzz, which here in Seattle, there's no doubt that it is Nick Wayne. He is local to us. I mean, I know a lot of people out there on the indies are seeing him and thinking of him as something of a sensation and are less aware that we've had years to really brand around him. So I think that's probably why Defy made that choice. Also, I'll throw out there, though, that he has been, as I throw out many times, he has been lucha trained with names like Super Crazy and Negro Casas out that have helped oversee his lucha education as well. So he's definitely, Negro Navarro, Negro Casas, I can't verify, but I've heard that one. So what I wanted to know is your guys' opinion. If they were to announce Vikingo is coming to your town now, in the upcoming months, what would you want to see out of it?
Well, I would selfishly want to see another luchador, personally. I mean, because, not a lot of opportunity. But, at the same time, it's so old school. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Miranda.
Yeah, no, I could see, especially Defy, setting up someone like Nick Wayne, who is really popular there. So I think that it's a twofold where I can see why they end up booking them, booked them against an American talent, because you still want to draw in your regular fan base.
This show is going to sell out, I guarantee you.
Yeah, I mean, you still wanted to, to still kind of not appease your fan base, but still kind of, leverage your fan base. And so with, and you could attest to this more about, what the lucha interest is in the Pacific Northwest, that, may be a little bit more limited. So how do you kind of get, you can still get new eyes to a product by bringing in, someone of that caliber, but then also kind of, just to kind of keep your fan base happy with matching them against, somebody who they know, who they like. But I also, understand the point of, work-wise, it would be making more sense to put him up against someone he's worked with before, because things like, communication and work styles, those are all things. And maybe originally not, as important, but now, for him especially, being injured and still going to be recovering from injury when he's, working these, it may have been more beneficial to have someone, he's wrestled before, more accustomed to help protect him as well. But I can see on the business side why matching him with more of a U.S. or with a U.S. based wrestler would help. But especially for Defy, we've talked about Nick Wayne before. He has enough of a background, and will be an indie darling match. I anticipate hopefully seeing clips of that match all over the internet after it happens.
Absolutely. But you're sidestepping the question I put at you. He shows up, Vikingo is announced for anywhere in the state of Arizona at this point. Do you want to see Luchador, or do you want to see one of your guys go again?
Well, yeah, I mean, to echo what Dusty said, I would love to see him opposing another luchador more than, somebody local, at least in my state. Just because I know. Granted, I guess if I had my state, if we got a Vikingo Hammerstone match, though, that's a whole different story. Then book that.
That is where my head went. Like, that would be a fun one for a local guy down there.
Yeah. As the most famous local guy we have, so.
That's true. I will always point out that he has been on the record and say he loves to wrestle luchador. So, fantasy book that, Arizona.
Yeah, well, yeah, somebody fantasy booked that. I've heard and spoken with Hammerstone, here and there, and I'll talk a little bit about this in the indie roundup, but seeing, Bandito, recently at Pro Wrestling Revolution, and seeing him work in person was amazing, and Hammerstone just had nothing but amazing things to say about his match with Bandito from MLW earlier this summer. So, you know, he's definitely with a good luchador, especially to someone like a caliber of, you know, Hijo de Vikingo, arguably the best luchador in the entire world. Yeah, I'm sure he would want that match in a heartbeat.
Well, there you go. If you're a promoter in Arizona and you're hearing that, try and find a way to make it happen. Actually, I'd see the Hammerstone matchup anywhere.
Yeah.
I would love to see that any old place. So, Matt, if you're listening to this, you can bring that to Defy, and I won't complain either. So I did mention that GCW put up all the archives. So this means that for those of you who heard our whole diatribe and breakdown of the World on Lucha, which Gringo Loco did, that's now available to see. You can see all of the great matches from that. You can see several matches from their cards in Mexico. I was going to highlight they also have the Effie's Big Gay Brunch match between Cassandro, El Exotico, and Sonny Kiss from a couple years ago now, but it's still a very emotional match to watch. And then I'm going to go back and watch a whole bunch of now I can only remember his WWE name, Grand Metalik, Mascara Dorada, cause he's done a few of them too. So, just, you know, if you are hungry to see some Lucha Libre action and you want to support an indie promotion, there you go. Go over to Fight TV. And GCW has their whole archive there. If you are feeling a little daunted, like I said, Cubs Fan on his blog will have direct links to the cards, so you can look them up by the match you want to see, and he will link you directly to the fight page. So you barely have to do any work if you want to go see that. But that is my news. I'm gonna switch over now. We're gonna go over to the indie roundup, and Miranda already kind of hinted at this. One of the things that Miranda got to do during our long break was she got to work a couple of shows, and while we're not going to run down all of them because they were kind of a little bit back, I think you were gonna go over some highlights for us.
Yes, so two shows I wanted to highlight that occurred about 2 weeks ago. One was PCW Ultra, that happened in, of course, Wilmington. This was, of course, PCW Ultra has always been a awesome show and experience. Also, of one of the promotions who really did, and continuously puts Lucha Libre out in the forefront. But awesome show. This show, Set in Stone, was highlighted by the introduction of the Ultra Bolt, which was a cage match with weapons. Think about Ambrose Asylum match, but better. For the PCW Ultra Champion, and I said MLW because Champion Hammerstone was having to defend his title against 3 different competitors, Sin Bodhi, Shafe, and Jacob Fatu, with Jacob Fatu coming out victorious and becoming your new PCW Ultra Champion. But one of the fun highlights of that show was a match between Shane Haste and Puma King. That was an awesome match. And then a ultra light I would say kind of contenders match also occurred. It was due to some changes in the card, but we had a 4-way contenders match in the ultra light division with Danny Limelight versus Lince Dorado versus Lucas Riley versus Matt Vandegrift. And so that was a huge highlight of the show. And the ultralight division in Ultra is phenomenal. And so the winner of that match ended up being Matt Vandegrift, who now took over as #1 contender for the ultralight championship. Lince Dorado was previously the #1 contender, but now that has shifted over to Matt Vandegrift. So he will be eventually facing Jay Vidal for the Ultra Light Championship. So PCW Ultra, make sure to check them out on social media. They also have now footage slowly coming up of their show before that, Way Out West. That's now available on PCWOnDemand.com. They have matches from both Way Out West and Friday the 13th that are available. That includes Toa Leona versus Killer Cross. That was up there. And much, much more. So make sure to check out Ultra. They have announced that their anniversary show will be happening on Friday, January 27th, and already announced for that show, Black Tourists will be in action. And also for their special guest during the meet and greet, it has been announced that trying to go through and find my notes here, that Chavo Guerrero Jr. will be there during the special meet and greet. This event's special meet and greet guest for Set in Stone was Ultimo Dragon, someone we are all very familiar with, a big fan of. He was there signing autographs, talking with fans, and so the meet and greet portion of Ultra's events are just awesome. Not only do they have a special guest, but you get to meet all of the PCW Ultra wrestlers, get your autographs, get your posters signed, take pictures, buy their merchandise. And so it's just a phenomenal experience. But yes, Ultra was something else. And then the next night in San Jose, Pro Wrestling Revolution came back for the first time in a year there. And they also had a plethora of matches, but the big things I wanted to highlight, as I talked about earlier, was Bandito, in his match, which was, I believe, a 6-man tag, which really was one of the highlights of the entire show. But I would say kind of the most, look that I had on my face that entire night was Roosh. He challenged JR Kratos in the main event, and his presence, his look, his style is money. And that's why it surprises me that, a company like AEW isn't leveraging it as much as they should, because in that crowd in person, it is something else. So well put together, just an amazing talent, but an amazing presence. And
he got such a great presence.
It's such a great presence. So I just cannot say enough great things about him. And Pro Wrestling Revolution, again, bringing you literally the top stars in Lucha Libre on their shows every time. So I cannot emphasize, if you are able to go to one of their shows, to absolutely do it. They do have some of their previous shows on Fight TV. I believe their show from March is available on Fight TV now. More hopefully to come, but you can also check out clips and pictures, of course, on their social media, Pro Wrestling Revolution, on Facebook, on Instagram, definitely view their stuff. I'm trying to remember now. So they do have their show. Which one is this one? It's on Fight TV. So while you're also looking at your GCW stuff, from November, this is November. So I believe earlier this year, they do have that. It's on Fight, so definitely check it out. But both were great shows to be a part of, and lots of good Lucha Libre content happening out in Cali.
So I can, for anyone who's on the fence on this, I can validate as well that their production values are through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them have very professional setups while you're at the show. So I know that creates a really dynamic impact when you're watching it back on a Fight TV, for example, or IWTV if that's your flavor, and you're watching your lucha over there. So you have lots of great presentation. You heard Miranda go over just some of the matches you get on the card. There, you always get top to bottom a great show. So I was unaware that other show was on Fight TV. Now I'm gonna have to go back and check it out, because I keep kicking myself. I don't get to go ring announce and tell my bosses that I can't work that weekend. I'm going to see a pro wrestling show, or I'm going to work a pro wrestling show. So
yeah, it was a very surreal weekend to go to PCW Ultra, to then Pro Wrestling Revolution. I did finish the weekend over at FSW. No lucha content to really cover there, for that show, but it was definitely, a crazy triple header. So, sometimes this life is strange, but in the best ways. So, also, Pro Wrestling Revolution did announce they're going back to San Jose March 11th, 2023. So it will be their first, San Jose show of the new year. So for those who are interested, you have time to, check flights, get your accommodations set. They continue always bring in, again, the biggest names in Lucha Libre. As I say these things out loud, who knows if maybe they'll be able to finagle a maybe Hijo de Vikingo, to their March show.
I mean, if he's coming up here in Seattle in December, California in March is not a big reach.
Yeah. No, I could see it happening, everyone. So, but those are just my personal experiences, my contribution to the Indie Roundup.
Well, yeah, as always, thank you. We do like to really highlight the indies on the show as much as possible. I know, and even before our time off, we were struggling a little bit with that due to a number of reasons. So I wanted to really put as much of a highlight as we could on there. And that makes me super proud that we get to announce. I just have this one headline on it, because you don't get a lot of lucha over in Japan, but when you do, apparently you get big, because Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. has been touring with Noah. There's been a long-term relationship with them and a few luchadors. He toured 2 years ago with when I was really hyper focused on it, because of a couple friends of mine were on that tour with him. But apparently they like him so much now that they put him in a title match for the GHC National Championship in Noah, Pro Wrestling Noah. And Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr. is now your new GHC National Champion, having won it from Masakatsu Funaki. I apologize that I am now slaughtering names in 2 languages instead of just 1, but there you go. So congratulations there. I don't know if there's footage, like a full match out there, but there is footage and there's images out there if you want to see the Dr. Wagner Jr.'s son, one of his giant grown boys, winning the GHC National Championship. And then, as we alluded to earlier, we had Big Lucha had a show at Bandito's Gym That was that was a little bit ago. My date is cut off here. So on the undercard, you had a few names that are still obviously coming up. You did have, so I'm skipping ahead. That's what this stalling is all about. You had, in the middle, you had Carrito and Skyade against Action Jackson and Potro. Or Skyade. So, obviously the Maestro gets a little bit of a win. You know, if you can have an instructor like that on the card, you gotta make him look good once in a while. Galeno Del Mal, another one of Wagner's children, had a match against, somebody named Limbo. I apologize that I don't know you yet, Limbo, but if you're doing matches like this, I'm positive I'll see a lot more of you. Galeno Del Mal got the win. That was supposed to be Galeno Del Mal versus Bandito, but, card is subject to change. And in your main event, you had Bandito, Gravity, Commander Ray Horus against Bandito, not to be confused with Bandito, Elemental, and Flamita Yutani. And, they always end the show on a high note. So Bandito, Gravity, Commander, and Ray Horus came out on top on that one. Sounds like a fantastic card. I really, really want more of these to get loose on the internet so I can find them easier. But, that was our big Lucha card, and thanks to AEW for allowing these shows to keep going on, because I really like having a big name right now wrestler having a gym and working with a lot of these guys. That means a lot more people are going to have eyes on the next generation of Lucha, and I love it. But that's it. That's for my indie roundup for the week. Thank you, Miranda, for also giving us some indie roundup information. We will, as always, we are looking for all of your indie news. So, maybe the Kingos come into your town and you just want me to shout it out. Or maybe you saw an amazing match between two guys in a mask that I've never heard of before. Send me all of your Lucha results. We'll give our socials at the end of the show.
Thank you, Brendan. Of course, as Brendan mentioned, we will give our socials at the end of the show. So that way, if you want to reach out to us about events happening near you that you'd love for us to plug or mention, we'd be happy to do so. Well, up next, though, it's that time. We are going to kick it off to Denise Salcedo, who brings us this week's Lucha Central.
Why should you visit thechairshot.com? Thechairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
Hey everyone, it's Denise Salcedo here in Lucha Central with a reminder of where and when to catch all of the great network content this week. Get the full lineup and listen to all of our shows in the podcast network section of luchacentral.com. On Tuesdays, Mats and Mayhem takes you inside the world of Lucha Underground as they take you weekly through the series with the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of special guests from the groundbreaking series. Check out the premiere video stream every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Lucha Central YouTube channel and at luchacentral.com. Then listen to it on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday. Tuesday nights live, it's Wrestle Boss, where Fabi Chulo talks MMA and pro wrestling with special guests and listener call-ins. Visit WrestleBossLive.com Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific to listen live or call in with questions or download the show on podcast platforms on Wednesdays. Wednesday nights live on Facebook, it's Spanish show La Mesa de los Márgaros, giving you both the news and the chisme from around the lucha world. special guests, and a whole lot of fun make it one of the most talked about shows in Mexico. Thursdays, it's straight out of the bodega with Papo Esco and PWR promoter Gabriel Ramirez, as they have guests from throughout the wrestling world pull up to give an inside look into their careers. From indie standouts to television superstars, each week brings a new name and perspective. On Friday, it's your double dose of Lucha Central Weekly podcast, one in English y el otro en español. Lucha Central Weekly is where you'll find all the top stories of the week, both inside and out of the ring from Mexico and anywhere luchadores are in action across the globe. Be sure to subscribe and follow all your favorite Lucha Central Network series on your favorite podcast platforms, either by their own series name or subscribe to the Lucha Central Podcast Network show pages to get all of the shows in one easy feed. And please consider giving a rating to help more fans find the shows that you love. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central Central. Have a great week.
Lucha-Masks.com by Pro Wrestling Revolution, bringing you in partnership with Masked Republic, the Lucha Brothers, as well as Japanese legend Ultimo Dragon. Go to lucha-masks.com and fight Lucha Strong with masks from your favorite Lucha legends and Pro Wrestling Revolution luchadores. Stay safe in style and represent your favorite luchador. Get yours now at lucha-masks.com, powered by Pro Wrestling Revolution.
And as always, a big thank you to Denise Salcedo, who brings us this week's Lucha Central Central, letting you know what's happening throughout the Lucha Central Podcast Network. On to the promotion. So now this is the part of the show where we give you news and events that's happening with specific promotions throughout the world. We are going to be starting this portion off with CMLL. Brendan has some news to catch us up on with CMLL.
Just a couple quick stories on that. The CMLL has done a lot of things while we've been away. They've been doing their normal thing. They're still doing 3 shows every weekend plus stuff here and there. But one of the cool things is, as I've been complaining about, a lot of their pay-per-views have had no video on demand option. However, they have recently uploaded an episode onto their YouTube channel, which covers the Women's Grand Prix. So for those of you who heard us talking about it and building up to it, or have seen any of the other things on there, you can now see the whole match. It is tournament style, where you have Team Mexico versus everybody else, featuring Dallas, Vispa Dorada, Uvia, the list goes on and on. It's worth watching. It is a fantastic match. It's just up on CMLL's channel. It's a very nondescript looking thing. It just says it's an episode, a regular episode, and it even starts off with a men's match. But then it jumps into to the Grand Prix. You get to see all of that. I will spoil it for you now. For those of you who don't know, Dallas did win that, but the road that it takes to get there is pretty fantastic. Also, recently we had the annual Rey del Inframundo tournament. For those of you who don't know, every year Arena Mexico every year around Day of the Dead, Arena Mexico turns into a gateway to hell, and all of the wrestlers take sides of either the gods or the devils, and they have fantastic events going on. And sometimes you'll see wrestlers literally dragged to hell, which is always quite interesting. But among those things, you'll have the King of the Underworld tournament. And this year, it turned out that Stuka Jr. managed to take the belt off of Terrible, who had won this. Was it 2 or 3 times, Dusty? Do you know?
I'm not sure. It's at least twice, maybe 3 times.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I know for sure it was twice. I think there's a possibility.
3 sounds right, but I can picture 2, so.
Yeah, so there you go. Congratulations, Stuka Jr. You're now the King of the Underworld, and you beat a long-standing one. That's what I like about this is it's a title that you only see defended once a year. So even though CMLL is even more grievous than AEW for having way too many titles, this particular one has a neat little bit of prestige on it because you get an entire show built up around it, and then everybody has to wait until next year to go see it again. And on a similar note, I mentioned the Grand Prix. Both Lady Frost and Avispa Dorada have announced on their social medias that they are going to have more dates coming up. Avispa, I believe, is staying. Lady Frost mentioned that she has dates in December. So, they seem to be building up to larger events if they're looking at having American wrestlers there. So keep an ear open. We might have more, kind of exciting news about American indie wrestlers traveling down to Mexico and being part of something. So, but that's it. That's what I've got for CMLL this week. I would love to have more. Do you want more CMLL? I know when we were covering it in depth before, it felt kind of long, and there's a lot of CMLL. But if you want more, let me know. So, thank you again, CMLL.
Great. Thank you, Brendan. Up next, we've been alluding to it. We've talked about it here and there, but we got a lot of AAA news to cover. Specifically 2 cards coming up and how they may intertwine, how they leverage, what's happening, what isn't happening. The conspiracy theories are wild here, with AAA. So Dusty, go ahead, get us rolling.
Yeah, well, first up, we had mentioned it before. There's a Phoenix area show being held in Tempe on December the 3rd. They released the card on November the 15th, so not much time to get your tickets if you want to. The card announced is Lady Shawnee teaming with Sexy Star 2 versus Lady Maravilla and Chic Tormenta in a women's tag match. Willie Mack and Mascarita Sagrada versus Demus and Latigo. Nuevo Generacion Dinamita versus the team of Mr. Iguana, Commander, and Dave the Clown. Interesting trio there.
Dave is back!
Yeah. And teaming with Commander and Mr. Iguana. I mean, that's like a high-profile trio, but it's just 3 people you probably wouldn't have thought to put together.
Never in any lifetime would I have said Dave the Clown with either of those guys.
But it makes an interesting trio, like I say, and it's something visually exciting for the fans. I mean, it's going to look amazing. Hopefully, I think this could be the sleeper match on the card. But the next match, this is a trio, or a triple threat rather. Taurus versus Daga versus Io Del Vikingo. Daga back with AAA after a long break. It's been quite a while. And, versus Vikingo in his first match back. That's very high profile for Daga. The triple threat format kind of protects Vikingo because, he doesn't have to be pinned. And yeah, I
also,
like.
if he's still hurt, he doesn't even have to work that hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of a perfect setup. Lucha Blog Cubs fan, he had mentioned that the Daga placement in such a high profile match felt more like a favor to Daga than anything that was actually adding to the match. And at first I kind of agreed, but after I read it and thought about it, I was thinking about a lot of Daga's work, and he's a really solid hand, and he can be very credible in the moment when he needs to be, and I think that he could actually bring a lot to this and be exciting. His kind of exile seemed to go along with Tessa's, even though he was just kind of guilty by association. And so I'm excited to see Daga back. I think he could really surprise us. Hopefully, got fact tricks. Go ahead.
I mean, further to further your point that it's probably a little more deserved is he's still a giant, well-known face. Mm-hmm. He did Lucha Underground for all of the seasons, and people that don't follow the American Indies will still have seen him on Lucha Underground and be like, I remember that guy. I want to see that guy, because he was a presence there too. So, we know more about the fact of there's a lot of going on with where he has been or hasn't been, but most people won't. And in America in particular, they will just think of him as a really big name that they finally get to see live.
Yeah. And it would be exciting, especially if you've, more recently got into Lucha but didn't have the opportunity to ever see Daga live. This is a really unique chance to do that. And then we have the main event, a trios match, the team of Blue Demon Jr., Pentagon Jr., and Pagano versus Sam Adonis, Gringo Loco, and Flip Gordon.
Oh, man. It's really, I don't have a team I want to win in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's an interesting.
It can go either way.
Yeah, interesting trios as well.
Yeah, again, not something you would have picked on paper, but it's interesting.
Right? Yeah, no, I mean, it's just, normally if it's Sam Adonis and Psycho Clown, it's an easy choice for me, but there's the team he's got with him is good, and then I also want to see people on Sam's team get beat up. I'm not going to say any names. I'm not going to go further down this rabbit hole of taking sides. So.
Well, and Psycho Clown was announced for the card, but originally on the posters, he was announced for Tempe. He is not on the card as advertised right now, but apparently Psycho Clown and La Hydra are scheduled for the VIP experience, which is an extra couple $100 on top of your ticket. And who knows if they're coming or not. We discussed this before. Everything feels very up in the air. And if this was your first high profile American show, you had your Blue Demon things there. We'll touch on that with the card for Night of Champions. We'll go ahead and announce the card for Night of Champions so we can discuss it.
Circle around.
Yeah. It's all interconnected.
Yeah, Night of Champions, December the 28th. I believe is a Wednesday. This is also being recorded. I think it's going to be on Fight. Not for sure on that. But the card, as announced, first up we'll have the Marvel Lucha Libre match where they're going to finally crown a champion. They've got that belt based on the arc reactor from Iron Man. Very cool. Lights up. No competitors have been announced. It's pretty likely it's going to be the people that were announced before, like the winners at Triple Mania. But, it's AAA. Who the heck knows? You never know what you're going to get when you get there. Next up, we're going to have a mixed tag team match, championship match. Third defense for Sammy Guevara and Ty Mello. The challengers are Lady Shani and Octagon Jr. and Commander and Sexy Star 2. The titles have done nothing for Sammy and Ty. I don't know. It feels like they are less interested in it. It feels like they are less popular, less over, less everything than they were when they won the titles. So unless they really put on a big show here, I don't know that I see them winning this match. They could.
To your point, they've just kind of sunk really deep since then. The momentum at the time they won them was tremendous, but it's not going anywhere now. So I think they're probably just gonna.
Their heat has turned into apathy.
Yeah.
It really has. I mean, that's the vibe I get. Like, I'm apathetic towards it. At first, I was like, oh man, Sammy, what a villain. And now I'm kind of like, Sammy, we've seen this. What else you got?
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So, just not as excited about that match as I would have been a couple of months ago. Next match on the card, trios match, Nuevo Generacion Dinamita in their second defense against the team of Aramis, Mystices Jr., and Willie Mack.
This is the one I'm excited for.
Oh my gosh,
super
yes. The perfect mix. The brutal ground-based thing. Willie Mack can do everything. Mystices and Aramis, very cool. Gonna be a great match. Next up, we have the Copa Mundo Imperial, Dave the Clown versus Panic Clown versus Vampiro versus Murder Clown. Did I mention Murder Clown? Pagano, Aerostar, Blue Demon Jr., Nino Hamburguesa, Mr. Iguana, Diva Savaje, Jesse Ventura, and Parca Negra. Now, Blue Demon Jr. being in the Copa Mundo Imperial is interesting. That's not his high placement.
So all the other names are people that are all in the same spot. They're usually doing this match in the middle of a big card somewhere.
Yeah, just to get included. Because, like, how do you leave somebody like Mr. Iguana or Nino Hamburguesa off the card? But what do you do with them if you don't have big plans?
Right, you put them in a tournament, or you have a scramble match in the middle or something like that, which is you know what this originally sounded like until you heard the name Blue Demon Jr. and then you're like, what?
Yeah. It's interesting, and it actually plays into the next match. The next match is a triple threat match, but they're debuting a new championship at Night of Champions, the AAA Blue Demon Campeon. Then you become the Blue Demon Champion, the Demon Champion, and the lineup for that is Aries versus Taurus versus Viano 3 Jr. I mean, that's going to be a hot match.
Also going to be a match of the night contender. My goodness.
But if you have this going on with Blue Demon and your big high-profile first American show, how do you not do the match on the show? I'm just baffled at that one. And like we say, there's a lot of clues that maybe the show could be canceled due to amount of tickets sold or, whatever reason. There's still supposed to be a Tijuana show that night. Miranda did some research into it and couldn't find anything about whether or not the show in Tijuana was still going on. But the fact that we're not getting Psycho Clown, not getting La Hydra, there's a lot of weird stuff going on there.
Well,
it will be interesting.
We had seen, I believe when we talked about this before and we talked about the rumors of it not happening, Psycho Clown was one of the people that said he might have had his own dates. And Vampiro, too, actually had his own dates originally.
Vampiro was already scheduled for another show. Interesting. So there has been a bit more of an uptick in advertisement over the past week, and they have been bringing in AAA stars to the Phoenix area for local promotion. So I believe most recently Pagano and Psycho Clown were in Phoenix and did some television spots for the local Spanish television station. Apparently, the state declared, I think it was maybe November 12th or sometime last week, November 11th, Lucha Libre Day, and Psycho Clown and Pagano were there with a local representative. But it really hasn't been making big news. But there has been an uptick in advertisement on social media. And also apparently there's a commercial airing on local television. I have not seen it yet, but there's been some buzz online of it existing. So there's been seemingly a little bit late in the game, quote unquote, of advertisement for it, but AAA is making efforts to bring people here, and maybe that's a thing. Psycho Clown is more in an ambassador role for the show, and that's why he's been here recently making the rounds. But again, if he'll be here or not, but for sure, Vampiro is scheduled to be in another show, I think in Wisconsin. And apparently, to reports of Lucha Blog, he was going to honor that commitment first. So
I believe the phrase we talked about last time is when Vampiro says he's going to be at a show. That's the reputation, is he will be there. So.
Yeah, so it's been interesting. Locally, there's still a mix of people who are either unaware of the show is happening at all or skeptical of the show is going to happen. There's definitely a delay of people getting their tickets just because of this unsureness of will it, won't it. Of course, if, whenever you do buy tickets, you get a refund, but there just has not been as much buzz locally about it. But again, too, Arizona in general has been noted to be not a huge wrestling city, and if it is, it's more in the WWE territory. not so much in the world of Lucha Libre. So still very interesting decision to run a show here. We'll see if it pays off. We'll see over literally, 2 weeks, what will happen.
I still haven't bought my plane ticket.
Yeah. I was going to try to go at one point, but then the uncertainty around it all, and then, like we mentioned earlier, I got really sick for a week there, missed a bunch of work, and so it's not in the cards for me now, but I really hope it turns out. And, also, Night of Champions, don't want to forget these 2 matches. We have the 5th defense of FTR for the AAA Tag Team Championship against challengers Hermanos Lee, that's Listico and Dragon Lee. That's going to be really good. I'm excited for that. I don't know. It seems like FTR called it in a little bit with their AAA matches, but I feel like in Mexico against Hermanos Lee, like, you got to bring it or the people are going to get mad. And so, like, you have to really show up and show out. I think that's going to be a hot match. And then finally, a match a lot of us have been waiting for, singles match. Vikingo's 8th defense, 3rd recorded defense, so that fans can watch it, of the AAA Mega Campeon Championship, Vikingo versus Bandito. And I am so excited for this match. We've seen them in a triple threat, but we've not seen them challenged like this in a singles match. Bandito is capable of amazing things. Vikingo is capable of things that defy science and physics. And I am so excited for this match. I genuinely think it's going to be a match of the year contender. I think people are going to be so surprised at how fantastic it is. And it happens just 3 days before the end of the year. I really do think it's going to be a big deal and something people talk about as a match of the year match. Big names. A lot of talent. This is the, kind of first time we got to see them solo against each other. Very exciting stuff. Big cards. Hopefully the Tempe show happens. We see how the, kind of dynamics and politics of it are playing into Night of Champions, but it's also in such a way that Night of Champions could be replacing it. A lot going on. We'll keep you updated as we know more, but hopefully everything goes off without a hitch.
Yeah.
It'll be fine, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
I just want to do one quick little push on this. Since we are talking about how uncertain it is, I did buy my tickets with insurance, so if that is your concern, buy your tickets so that way they get the idea that people want to see this show. And then if it does still happen that they cancel it, you won't be out money.
Yeah, tickets are still available on Ticketmaster. So if you do go through the actual vendor, you are able to get refund options. When you go through a third party, that is where it gets, more tricky. But tickets are still available through Ticketmaster. So definitely check those tickets out if you are interested. There's still lots of availability. The arena itself is a very new arena, literally with, just opened earlier this year. So it's a great venue. Tempe's a great place, not too far from the airport. So as far as the visit, it's a great time of year to come and visit in Arizona as well. It's not hot at all. So if you want to be a winter visitor for a weekend, come and visit Phoenix. Man, the tourism department should pay me for that plug.
Yeah, that's they need to.
They should. So up next, though, promotion we haven't talked about in a minute is WWE. And Dusty has some more news for us, specifically a match that occurred this past Friday on Smackdown.
Yeah, this last Friday we had Shinsuke Nakamura versus Santos Escobar in the World Cup Championship Tournament, the first round. And so this was technically Japan versus Mexico, if you looked at the kind of branding for the match. Surprisingly quick match, actually. I thought this one was going to have some time. First match on the card was the New Day versus the Bloodline, and it got like 40 minutes. So I assumed that this match was going to get some time too, but not as much as I thought. Great match. Instantly one of the most notable things, Joaquin Wilde came out dressed as Pee Wee Herman. I mean,
the suit was
it was spot
ridiculous.
on. And there's part of me that's like, is this a rib? And who is it on? It instantly got attention. It was all over the internet. Joaquin Wilde may be a secret genius. All he had to do was dress up like Pee Wee Herman. And despite Santos Escobar winning the match with the Phantom Driver from the second turnbuckle, it was Joaquin Wilde that everybody talked about all weekend long. And then, yeah, and he's genius. People keep sending him pictures of him and Pee Wee side by side. And so he says, quit sending me this shit. And then he tweets Elon Musk. Can you make these people stop? And so perfect. Played into it so well. The social media aspect was amazing. Also during the match, Bad News Barrett on commentary mentioned that Shinsuke and Santos had wrestled in CMLL 15 years ago.
Mind blown.
I could not believe
crazy.
it.
We're in a crazy time, y'all.
Yeah. I mean, we are truly living in the strangest timeline. I believe it was New Japan or Noah got mentioned a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown. Now CMLL. And not only that, by mentioning CMLL, they acknowledged the whole Io del Fantasma thing. It's really interesting and really exciting as a WWE fan. Miranda and I were talking before the show, and I've been watching more SmackDown than any other wrestling show. It's just so good right now. And the kind of excitement and the must-see quality of Dynamite has dwindled, especially with everything after All Out and the fight and the whole Elite thing. But SmackDown has consistently been getting better and better every week. I do miss Swerve and Hit Row. I feel like they are woefully exposed without Swerve. He was the star of that group, and it really shows now. But everything else I'm great on. Still miss Elektra with Legado del Fantasma. Zelina adds a lot. I just don't know why they couldn't have both been there.
Yeah.
Zelina looks amazing. She looked fantastic in this match. She, really does a great job distracting the ref, getting people's attention. But she could still do it with Elektra there. I don't know. But Santos looked great, picked up a much-deserved win. The crowd was really 50-50 for Shinsuke and Santos, which was exciting, because Shinsuke has consistently been one of the bigger crowd reactions that they get. And for Santos to get that same level of reaction was really nice, really exciting. Shows that main roster's kind of accepting him, the fans of the main roster. He cut his promo in both English and Spanish. His English is flawless. He sounds like $1 million. And I mean, the sky is the limit for this guy. I really think we see him, not during the Bloodline timeline, but I think we see him as a legitimate contender for the World Championship within the next year. 2023 is going to be the year of Santos.
I hope so. I hope that's true. For those of you who don't understand why it's so mind-boggling to mention CMLL, there was a very expended period of time where the WWE just did not talk about any other wrestling promotion ever.
Yeah.
Like
my whole lifetime, basically.
Yeah.
The last time I can think about them talking about other promotions was during the Monday Night Wars, when they were inviting other promotions to participate with them. And that was, So, everything was isolationist. That's, everybody would always joke about what somebody's name would be changed to when they joined the WWE, and all of our internet guesses were way less bizarre than some of the ones we got. Just a weird little, we're in a moment now. We're in the middle of a very definite shift in all of wrestling. And once again, the WWE is in the center of it. So, even when they were just a year ago, they were the product everybody was like, we don't want anything to do with this because it's boring and same. Now they're the ones that everybody wants to watch. And all of wrestling is changing as a result of it. And who would have thought we'd be in a world where AEW Dynamite is not even figuring into our equation in the new wrestling dynamics.
6 months ago, I wouldn't have thought it was possible, but things have really shifted. And SmackDown, Raw too. Raw has been very good, but SmackDown has been the most consistent national wrestling program I've been watching. I mean, like, they really consistently bring it. Storylines all tie together. A lot of interesting stuff goes on every week. And I just want to tune in. And like I said, it feels like that's really dwindled with AEW, especially Dynamite. Rampage never had the big show feel that Dynamite did for me. But even Dynamite has kind of lost that show shine.
In fairness to the Rampage show, Tony Khan's even said that too. He's like, we really let the show down. We need to look at what we're doing and maybe change things up. Not an exact quote. That's a paraphrase, but
right. Yeah, it does feel like the B show. I mean, it just doesn't have that A show feel. And that's okay. I enjoy a lot of the matches on Rampage. I actually watch it more than I watch Dynamite right now. But that speaks to the importance of Dynamite and how far it's fallen lately. That was must-see TV for a couple of years for me. I mean, I always watched Dynamite live, watched every minute of it. And now, I just kind of watch the relevant stuff. I've kind of lost my infatuation
just wait for the highlights.
with it.
And I mean, I don't know how much time we've already taken. Part of this for us on the Lucha Central show, just so that we can set it apart. We're not being like, I know the internet there's sections of the internet that have been very anti-AEW. Part of it for us is they've really distanced themselves from all of their connections to Lucha. Like,
exactly. And what you do see right now, I don't want to see Rush lose.
Right.
That's the last thing I want to see. I want to see him out there kicking ass. And so to me as a Lucha fan, that's not appealing.
Yeah. And similar, we're not seeing Andrade.
Exactly.
Possibly for political reasons. I don't know. But to bring it all around there, that's where AEW has been the most interesting in the last few months. Is speculation about what's going on at the company, not what's been going on with their product.
Correct.
So, anyway, I don't want to derail us on that. We will have plenty of times to talk about AEW stuff. I'm sure we've got other things that Lucha things we can be going on about.
Yeah, I think Miranda has some news from MLW for us.
Yes, MLW has returned after a long hiatus. MLW Fusion came back last week, but before we get into that, MLW did treat its fans by airing Battle Riot 4 back 2 weeks ago. That is exclusive. Both that and new episodes of Fusion are now available on Pro Wrestling TV, no longer on YouTube, so make sure you keep that in mind. But now Battle Riot was filmed back in June, and it is now November, so things have changed. We talked about the wrestling landscape changing a lot, literally in just the past 2 months. So some of the names and some of the things I'll talk about for Battle Riot were very interesting back in June. For those of you who are not aware, Battle Riot is MLW's version of a Royal Rumble. However, some very interesting changes. One, it is a 40-person battle royal, and eliminations can occur by pinfall, submission, or throwing your competitor over the top rope. So as far as competitors within Battle Riot, some notable lucha names include friend of the show Lince Dorado, along with Eddie's, Microman, Mini Abismo Negro, La Estrella, Killer Cross, a special appearance by Sami Callihan, who's still contracted with Impact Wrestling, Jose Maximo's, the Maximo's Homicide, Of course, Jacob Fatu, Myron Reed, 2 of Cesar Duran's Aztec Warriors in there, Matt Cross, Savio Vega, and Taya Valkyrie, along there. The 40th, opponent, 40th participant in the Battle Riot, of course, news leaked earlier, was Parker Boudreaux from former NXT fame. Your winner, though, of Battle Riot, who does then earn an opportunity for the MLW Heavyweight Championship, was Jacob Fatu. So for MLW, kind of interesting overlap of what we saw at Ultra, a few weeks ago. Jacob Fatu does now have a guaranteed title shot against Alexander Hammerstone. No news on when that match is set to occur, but Hammerstone did beat Fatu for the MLW Championship now over a year ago. So we are going to get Fatu Hammerstone 2.
It was a banger of a match too. Like that's still on YouTube. So if you don't have to go over to Pro Wrestling TV. I don't even know if it's uploaded over there yet, but yeah, watch it. If you watched it before, watch it again. If you haven't seen it yet, it's a banger and that's your preview of what you're going to get. I guarantee.
And another note as far as the final 4 for that match were Sami Callihan, Killer Cross, Jacob Fatu, and Real One, also formerly known as Enzo Amore. They were really trying to set up, Killer Cross in a great position, as he was eliminated by Fatu. So it looked like that may have been, a feud that Fatu was going to get into while kind of waiting for Hammerstone. But then what happened? Killer Cross and Scarlett Bordeaux both got re-signed by WWE. So, plans changed, but, Battle Riot, again, is available online at Pro Wrestling TV. The full Battle Riot is live. Anyone can watch it.
I wanna kind of put a little more of a highlight on something that we just threw out there factually but didn't really go into. This is a men and women event. I heard at least 2 different women's name in there from the Lucha side. So, you won't see that. At first people might hear this and think Battle Riot is the Royal Rumble, or, something, and not even, or War Games or whatever they immediately, but this is
Royal
unique.
Rumble. Yeah.
It's more closely related to the Royal Rumble, except for,
just the way how people, eliminated, I would say. They have War Chamber, which is more similar to War Games. Yeah. But still, to have, a wide variety of people, especially an openness to have, Taya, your, women's featherweight champion in the match. Now, granted, she has wrestled more men than some of the people in that actual, in that ring. So, but it's a great addition, to that, and it really did leave a big, element of surprise.
Yeah, and it changes the general atmosphere and vibe of it. I know some people will be less interested in seeing it, but I think more people knowing that will be interested in seeing, cause it's different. It's a different experience, and that's always made it stand out. So I just wanted to give it that quick little extra pitch there.
Yeah. So also now this week we did have the official return of MLW Fusion. Real quick, some results. MLW middleweight champion defended, his belt in a 4-way against Lince Dorado, with Myron Reed, against Lince Dorado, La Estrella, and Aries, which he retained the championship. Casey Navarro defeated Mini Abismo Negro, and Scarlett Bordeaux defeated Clara Carreras. Scarlett Bordeaux was, trying to, really make an impression in the featherweight division. Actually was a in-ring competitor with MLW at the time, but again, plans change now that her and, Killer Cross are back with WWE. But so it's still very interesting note of time to see, what was happening back in the wild, wild west of pro wrestling in June.
I will say that is my biggest regret with Kevin Cross going back to WWE is Scarlett Bordeaux. She worked down in AAA. She was working on doing some interesting things that we hadn't seen before. A lot of creativity, and I really wanted to see where she was going to take it on this particular trip. So we will never know, but hopefully we get to see a little bit of that creative side come out, at least in the WWE. So
yeah. See. Also new to MLW is the introduction of MLW Insider on YouTube. So this is going to be a periodic news show in which hosted by Alicia, kind of going through big announcements and interviews. Just dropped today. Her first guest was MLW head honcho, El Jefe, CEO, Court Bauer, which he had some interesting notes and pieces of information to share. One is with the partnership with Pro Wrestling TV, because that deal took a little bit longer to establish and to set forth. That's why we're kind of having this backlog of fusion episodes happening. Usually they'll film them and within a month or two they're up available, but because of the delay with this partnership coming together, we're a few months out. So they do anticipate getting back to a normal schedule soon. We've already seen the events that they've held in Philly, and more events have been announced for 2023. But a few little pieces of information that were interesting to know. He did confirm the return of Lio Rush to MLW, which, take it for what you want, but could be an interesting tidbit for those Lio Rush fans to know he's going to be back in MLW. We've seen Lio Rush literally everywhere. But I think to the same note of Sammy Guevara, for different reasons, but in a similar tone, I don't know if anybody truly cares anymore.
There was a window to all that hype, and I think that window might have closed.
Yeah, I agree.
But for fans of Lucha Libre action figures, of course, us, under the Masked Republic umbrella, a big update on the partnership with Boss Fight Studios. It was announced earlier this year that MLW is teaming up with Boss Fight Studios for an exclusive line of wrestling figures. Court Bauer confirmed that pre-order information will be coming out soon, and they anticipate to have products out at the end of the first quarter of 2023. Depending on when the end of the first quarter usually is, March, April-ish of a year. So hopefully by the beginning of next spring, we will have those out. But pre-order information, Court Bauer said, will be coming out soon. And he did confirm some really cool aspects of the Boss Fight action figures. We did see some mock-ups previously, but he also confirmed that you will hopefully be able to order your own MLW Boss Fight wrestling ring, as well as some cool accessories. He mentioned that there will be championship belts as accessories, and the famous MLW Opera Cup will be an accessory, specialized accessory. So Dusty and I were talking off air about one of the things that makes Boss Fight Studios, their products, their action figures, just above and beyond the rest is their attention to detail.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And, the accessories are awesome, and we've seen those with the Lucha Libre action figures. Got to actually play with some at Expo Lucha, and the level of detail in them is just beyond anything on the market today.
He didn't say any names, but while I was talking to him at Expo Lucha, he did hint that they were going to re-release the ring with different branding on it. I mentioned that specifically because currently the Lucha Central logo is on the bathroom door and the prop set, and he said that may not stay there. So
yeah. But yeah, if you've seen Boss Fight Studios action figures before and their products and accessories, you know the quality that they are. So I think MLW fans are going to be in for a real treat. And, I mean, this is great for Boss Fight, to be having this partnership, and something that I think will help MLW stand out in the product realm. They also did mention having, products sold at Hot Topics. So I think that there's some Masked Republic influence happening at MLW, whether it's intentional or not, but a lot of things that we've seen with Masked Republic already with, breaking into, Hot Topic stores, with, their partnership with Boss Fight Studios, with, all of the things that they manage, as far as merchandise and products that they have, they've already been there. So to see MLW follow in some of those footsteps is fantastic. But again, it looks like the action figures, those are still, gonna be happening, and, hopefully pre-order information out soon with product available sometime, hopefully in early 2023.
I'm going to just throw it out here one more time because Eric has mentioned he does tune in once in a while. We still need the cookie sheet accessory. Okay?
Yes.
I'm not going to let this go. We need that cookie sheet accessory.
And he won't, Eric. Brendan will not let it go. So this will be your cross to bear. Maybe with the MLW expansion pack. If the first round does well, maybe we'll get an expansion pack, and maybe we'll see some cookie sheets as part of the accessories.
I hope so. That's why I keep bringing it up, because every time he does a new wave, there's a chance, right?
So, but that is it for MLW. Don't forget, MLW Fusion airs every Thursday on Pro Wrestling TV. It is still for free, so you don't need to pay for anything. But, again, they moved away from YouTube to Pro Wrestling TV. However, MLW Insider is going to be on YouTube. It's a great 10-minute, little piece of content out there where they're going to be putting together news, information, exclusive interviews. This week's up is up again with Court Bauer. So good to see MLW back. Good to see still an emphasis on Lucha Libre. There has been, again, lots of other shows that's happened since Battle Riot. We are going to honor the honor system, and we are not going to be talking about any spoilers until Fusion airs. As much as it's very tempting to talk about some spoilers, we are going to honor the TV timeline and talk about them as they occur on Fusion. So we're back on a regular schedule with Fusion for the foreseeable future. So that means it's back on the rundown here on the Lucha Central Weekly podcast.
Heck yeah.
So that does it for us for this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to check out luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. Now, we've talked about luchacentral.com quite often, but we just cannot do it justice. So, Brendan, why don't you let our listeners know what else our fans, our listeners can expect when they visit www.luchacentral.com?
Nice save.
Yes.
LuchaCentral.com is the online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all of the top news in English and in Spanish. You can find the best curated video content and original content not seen anywhere else. You can find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your area. Find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. It's a place to have your voices heard, from weekly polls to annual awards, seen and read by top executives in all of the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. And as always, the cherry on top of this is that luchacentral.com is 100% free. luchacentral.com is your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.
Thank you, Brendan. And don't forget, you can check out Lucha Central on social media at Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram, and at LuchaCentral.com on Twitter. You can also visit Lucha Central's YouTube page that has hours upon hours of exclusive content, like previous episodes of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast in English and in Espanol. You can also visit and watch previous Expo Lucha virtuals that happened back in 2020 and 2021. Of course, interviews, matches, and much, much more. While you're at it, why don't you go ahead and follow us on social media? Brendan, or start with Dusty. Dusty, can you let our listeners know? My order's all off. Dusty, can you let our listeners know where they can find you on social media?
I am on Facebook at facebook.com/Dusty Murphy, and I am on Instagram at Dusty Murphy.
And Brendan, can you let our lovely listeners know where they can find you?
Yes, I am 321 T-shirt guy. That's the numbers 321. T-shirt guy is all spelled out. I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. And I'm all over the Twitters.
And me, Miranda Morales, you can find me at the #Miranda, hashtag spelled out, on Instagram and Facebook. I'm not on Twitter. I haven't been on Twitter before. It was cool to not be on Twitter. I just want to point that out. Everyone's quitting Twitter now.
Now you can get your own Twitter check mark for $7. So,
Yeah.
Yes. If that was the thing I was holding out for, is to be able to pay $7 to get verified instead of whatever this process there is to have to get verified. I just wanted to know I was a trendsetter before the trend started. That's all. But as Brendan mentioned earlier in the show, if you are an independent wrestling fan, luchador, promoter, photographer, please feel free to reach out to us. We would love to know about different independent promotions throughout the U.S. that either have a focus on lucha libre, that have lucha matches, that have luchadors on the card. We would love to share and promote that, talk with them, whatever it may be. We do a lot of talking about independence here on the West Coast, but we know there are more out there. So please reach out to us and share with us more information about independent wrestling promotions all over the U.S., as well as news that you would like to see covered, your thoughts and opinions on anything that we've talked about on the show before or in past episodes, and things you think we should cover in the future. Thank you once again for joining us on this week's episode. For Brendan Barr and Dusty Murphy, I'm Miranda Morales. We'll be back with you sometime in the future.
Next week.